Hello, welcome to Skill Check, the positive gaming podcast from YMCA Exeter. My name is Andy,
And my name is Becky.
and again, we're doing this thing through the
Remotely.
wonders of Zoom remotely, so anything could happen. Our ceiling in our lovely studio isn't quite what it used to be,
As in, like, it's not waterproof anymore. And so there's a hole and it's very wet.
and it's winter.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. It's been sorted, been dealt
Yeah.
with. It's okay. But before we throw ourselves down this rabbit hole of public therapy over all of
Mhm.
this, um, coming up, well, it's going to be a shortened version. We're going to be talking all things Black Friday. We're talking about, how not all things Black Friday, but basically the sales and how there's lots of deals out there. How do you kind of wheel yourself in? How do you not spend all the money on things you don't really need? But before we do that, we have gaming news. And now, gaming news.
Yes. And in the grand scheme of the way things go with our podcast, my voice is going again. So, Andy, I'm watching you. If I need you to pick up on any of the news, I'm going to let you know.
Well,
Um, yeah, our first piece of gaming news is Amazon has become the latest firm to cut jobs in the gaming industry, slashing 180 roles amid a restructuring. The company, which also owns the gaming streaming service site Twitch, is also shutting down its own channel on the platform after it struggled to gain popularity. The latest cuts to hit these are the latest cuts to hit the gaming industry in 2023, which has seen around 6,500 job cuts. This is despite the year seeing the release of hit games franchises such as Zelda, Spider-Man, and Mario. In the last 6 months, companies including Fortnite maker Epic Games, Assassin's Creed developer Ubisoft, uh, Montreal, and Pokemon Go creator I always get the Japanese names the hardest.
the Pokemon
Nia
Go creator.
Nitty have also announced cuts. These cuts come as revenue has dropped significantly after the pandemic.
I think that's it, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean, I was reading that. I was like, what is going on? And I think
yeah.
the answer is in that last sentence.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. Um, I guess there's nothing. It's one of those situations, isn't it, where anything you say about this sort of thing is just very much empty words, or at least that's the risk that can come out
Yeah.
as being. I know that Safe in Our World has this fantastic section on um, facing redundancy, which, whilst it's kind of designed kind of at this area,
Mm.
um, yeah, I think a lot of their advice is good for anyone who's in that position. I'll
Yeah.
link to it in the podcast notes.
Yeah. It was always going to happen. Like there was always going to be a dip
Uh,
after the pandemic. Like there was such a massive rise that there was
yeah,
always going to be a dip. So I think like it was always going to happen, but it's different. It will be difficult for those people that are losing their jobs. So
mm,
I do understand that. It's yeah, it'll well, I guess like growth just isn't the same as it was 3 years ago. So
yeah, that's it. I guess.
yeah. Anyway.
Especially with games which have like an inbuilt income stream within the game, like Pokemon Go and Fortnite.
Mm,
If people are playing those games less, that's less money coming in.
yeah.
Um, Cost of living. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Our next piece of gaming news is Nintendo has announced new rules for Super Smash Bros. Esports contests, which could cause some of them to shut down.
Oh,
The new the new rules state that events must now be not for profit and cannot have more than 200 participants. They also forbid having sponsors, offering a prize more than £4,000, and say people running the tournaments aren't allowed to sell food or drinks. Organisers say this will effectively ban the vast majority of competitions in their current form. Tournaments will still be allowed if they don't meet these rules, but they will have to apply for a special exception license directly from Nintendo. Tom, a gaming cafe manager from Norwich, says that if this was actually to be enforced, it could completely shut down the social lives and social circles of thousands of people across the country.
I think Tom's right. I mean, the bit that really confuses me, right, is it's going to be not for profit,
Mm,
can't have a sponsor,
yeah.
you can't offer a prize for then more than £4,000.
They're basically
Where's
enforcing a
that money
hobby.
going to come from?
But then, for me, it's they're basically enforcing people to make it a hobby rather than make it a profession, if that makes sense. Like
Okay.
you can't legitimately afford to be paid for it. So therefore you have to do it as a hobby and not as something you can get paid for. Which for people that want like gaming, like do play games professionally in esports,
Yeah.
like there were talk about adding it to competition, different types of competition, having an esports event at different events. If you're trying to talk about adding that to competition, you've got to give people the opportunity to do it as a profession.
Yeah.
And this is basically saying to people, you can't do it as a profession, you've got to do it as a hobby.
This is bad for gaming. This does
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say, the quote that I took from the cafe manager, um, he was very positive. Like he was quite a positive guy. He was saying that he'd worked with Nintendo before, and in the UK they tend to not enforce it quite so strictly. So the guys from the Nintendo office in the UK are much more sort of friendly, and it literally is about how it's enforced rather than like
Okay.
um so he was saying that actually he's worked with Nintendo before and they've been really generous in giving their time and their skills and their energy. And he's
Yeah.
not particularly worried that Nintendo are going to try and enforce this in a really strict manner.
Mm.
Um, so it's just really careful to be clear about the fact that actually he was saying that actually he's expecting that they won't necessarily enforce it. Um, but it will be interesting to see. And it's all up in the air. And now the rules are out there. It could be that then Nintendo decide to enforce it. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like Nintendo was seeing something that they weren't liking, but in an attempt to kind of control whatever that was, they're putting these things in place, and everyone's like, "Well, what does this really mean?"
Mm.
We'll see, I guess.
There was some positive gaming news this week, but we like it's really difficult to get it in. There was some things about Just Dance and stuff like that, which I'm sure we'll get to at some other point, which are really exciting. Um, our final piece of gaming, I think this is a positive piece of gaming news. We always love a gaming award season. Um,
Um,
our final piece of gaming news is the contenders for this year's Game Awards have been announced. With I can't even say how do you say that?
that's Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate. Okay. I am not very good. I'm never so I will point out I am dyslexic. So reading stuff like this is always hard for me when it's not spelt like I would suggest Baldur's should be. Um but I can't say it now.
Well, that's
Uh,
how I pronounce it.
Baldur's Gate 3. Sorry.
Well, that's how I pronounce it. I mean, I'm happy to be wrong.
You're right, yeah, it probably is. Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2 picking up the most nominations. Both the frontrunners got 8 nominations, including Game of the Year. They're joined in the Game of the Year race by Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of a Tears of the Kingdom. Notably absent from most of the main categories was the Xbox Starfield, although it did get a nomination for the best RPG game. Set up by journalist Jeff Knightley in 2014, the Game Awards have grown into a major event, and
Mm.
organisers estimate that 103 million people live streamed the event and tuned in worldwide last year. The ceremony itself is a mixture of awards show and preview event, which many fans watching for new trailers and the announcement of forthcoming titles.
Yeah, yeah, it's turned into a massive deal. It's turned into one of the times of the year where you can get a bit of kind of where news is announced of what's coming up, as well as the celebration of like the big games. It just happens that
Mm,
this is almost a bonkers year in gaming in that it's it's almost been like every month or so, like there's been
mm,
a new best game ever has been
yeah,
released. Yeah. So obviously there's gonna be some games that people will be there going, well, why isn't this made the cut? Why
yeah.
isn't this not good enough? And things like that. I mean, I saw some people talking about Hogwarts Legacy not
Oh
making
yeah.
it. Um, yeah.
That did that come? Gosh, I can't believe that came out this year. I can't believe that's.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
all
came
of
out
the other games that
last year.
all
Yeah.
the other games that have come out this year. I just that's completely blank that I have. That's not that came out this year as well.
Mm.
That's
And
mad.
whilst, there's some criticism of Hogwarts Legacy for the story and part of it, the actual kind of well building that they do is like amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I'll look forward to. Not sure if I'll be watching it or skipping the highlights, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking forward
mean,
to checking it
it
out.
was an interesting one when I was reading the article, and they were like, um, some people say it's basically just a big long advert, and there aren't really many like gaming awards. So, um, but it's like yeah, I mean, arguably, you could argue that any of those kind of award ceremonies are an advert for the films that they're like, if they're rewarding films or TV series, they're basically an advert for the TV series or films, aren't they? So, you know,
All of these things, one big advert,
mm,
as long as we treat them as such, and we know what.
yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to
Why
see
not?
afterwards what games have been announced, and we'll talk. I'm sure that we'll talk about once the awards have happened. We'll talk about what happened. Probably we'll talk about what games were announced. So I'm sure we'll come back to it at some point.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't remember the date it's on my head, but it's definitely written down somewhere.
Yeah. Um, and that's the end of gaming news.
Becky, it is the most wonderful time of year.
Can we talk about the C word?
Chips? I mean, we could do that. It sounds remarkably
For
random.
me, the most wonderful time of the year is what comes after the next Friday. But I don't think that's what you're talking about, is it, Andy?
Okay, well, it's the build up to it. It's part of it. It's Black Friday.
Okay.
I know we could be talking about Thanksgiving for our American cousins and things like that, but the Black
We
Friday
won't talk
stuff.
about how it's an American import that we suddenly for some reason have, even though we don't really celebrate Thanksgiving, which is the point of Black Friday was that it was like the day after Thanksgiving.
I mean, we could talk about that. Maybe that's a conversation for another time. I think
No?
we've already talked about it though. But anyway,
Okay.
my point is, there's a lot of sales. There's lots of kind of little voices out there saying, "Give me money." There's
How many
lots of
times do you submit to those little voices, Andy?
today or this week.
Is it hard? Is it
Well, it's what it is. I think.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it depends what the shiny, gadgety, gamey thing is,
Okay.
and if it's something I kind of sort of wanted
Yep.
in the past. I mean, I'm not sure if I see a deal on Spider-Man on the PC. I'm not sure if I'll be able to, pass it by this time. After all the
Mm,
talk about Spider-Man 2, I'm kind of starting to want to get in on that a little bit. Don't have a PS5. Getting Spider-Man or Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PC would be the next best bet.
yeah.
But the Hot UK Deals website, I reckon, has some great advice for shopping around Black Friday. So we're
Okay.
going to run through it nice and quick, and maybe I'll actually learn something myself. So number one, plan ahead and stick to your list. So the idea is that you actually consider what it is you want and what it is you're looking for, rather than just being tempted by whatever gadget, whatever advert gets thrown at you. Be smart about savings. Number two, so buy reduced vouchers up front and consider the actual price of the deal, not just the discounted rate.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, use price comparison websites to actually look for bargains rather than just go to the one website looking at you, Amazon. Focus number four, focus not just on the latest gadgets. Now, Amazon's actually quite good at this, I reckon, in that if you look at their last year's gadget, their last year's range, actually you'd probably be able to get quite a good deal on that. Doesn't necessarily have to be this year's. Number five, shop early. Stocks are usually limited, so use your shopping list and be quick with your purchase. Very important. If you're going to do that, if you're going to listen to that, that you've got a list and you're sticking to that list. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you've got the mindset of just shopping early, you're just going to start clicking on all sorts of things. Does it sound like I'm talking from personal experience? Maybe. Number
Oh,
six,
Andy.
aware of return policies. Policies may change around Black Friday. Know your rights as a consumer. Number seven, consider delivery charges. And then it says, don't let high postage charges ruin your bargain. Basically, it's very easy to see offers for like something fairly decent for quite cheap, but actually you get stung on the delivery charge.
Hmm.
And number eight, reserve time for shopping. Don't just rush your shopping experience and enjoy Black Friday.
I don't think anyone enjoys Black Friday, do they?
Yeah. I think they should. I think they're letting their bias come out a little bit with number eight.
Hmm.
But
Um, yeah,
could argue that actually there's something there in actually, not being rushed and not allowing yourself to
yeah.
be rushed to buying something that looks like it could be a bargain,
Mm.
that isn't when you stop and think about it.
I mean, I'm the kind of person that if I'm buying something over £100, I will meticulously research it and make sure that I'm getting the best price and the right thing. Like, I am very thorough because I don't like £100 is a lot of money. So,
Hmm.
like anything over that, I'm like, actually, this needs to be researched, and I need to know whether this is going to work and whether it's going to do what I want it to do, and whether it's going to, and I will sit there for like hours with like windows open, comparing different websites, comparing reviews, comparing like, and it isn't really important. I think if you're spending big amounts of money, whether you're buying like consoles or games or whatever, that you do really like look around, even on like normal days when it's not Black Friday, coming up to Christmas, like the big C word, I'm going to say it. I think it's really important to make sure that you're getting the best prices for things, particularly when we're cost of living and like people are struggling to buy presents for family and stuff like that. I just think it's worth spending the time to try and find the right deals and the right money for what you're paying for. So yeah.
Totally. I think on that note, I have a little timer in my screen saying that time is running out.
Time's running out. Yeah. Well, we are going to cut the podcast short there today, so we're not going to do game of the week, but it's fine. We'll bring it back next week. We'll bring it back. But that's partly because my voice is dry as well. But yeah, we will. Well, it was nice to see everyone. Please do find us on all our social medias at YMCA Exeter and at YMCA Exeter Games. Yeah, do if you've got any like comments, please do like, follow, subscribe. We are also on YouTube. You can see us, which will be really exciting. Um, yeah, you can see us talking. You can see into our houses currently as well, which is really fun for you. Yeah, yeah. And we will see you next week. Bye.